unfold.
What if I told you that in a single year, a modern, advanced nation could see almost 500,000 babies just disappear? Not because of a war or a famine or some plague, but because of a story, an old ghost story. Okay, we've got to get into this because we are about to unpack one of the absolute strangest demographic mysteries of the 20th century.
Right. Let's start with the number at the heart of this whole thing. -463,000. That's how many fewer births happened in Japan in 1966 than all the trends predicted. Think about that. Nearly 500,000 kids who statistically should be here, but they just aren't.
And here's the thing that makes it so weird. This wasn't a time of crisis. Japan was booming. It was the middle of its post-war economic miracle. So the question is, what on earth could make a country's birth rate completely fall off a cliff like that? Well, the answer isn't in economics or politics. It's written in the stars. So, to figure out what happened, we have to treat this like a crime scene. We've got to look at the data, and let me tell you, the numbers from this time don't just show a little dip. They show a giant statistical canyon. Now, the real clue here isn't just the drop itself. It's the shape of the data. Take a look. In 1966, the fertility rate absolutely plummets from 2.14 down to 1.58. That is a massive 25% collapse in 1 year. But then, and this is the crazy part, look at 1967. It shoots right back up, even higher than it was before. This isn't a population in decline. This is a population that collectively decided to hit the pause button for exactly 1 year. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. You see that sharp V shape? The drop is like a cliff, and the recovery is immediate. It tells us that hundreds of thousands of couples didn't decide not to have kids. They decided not to have them in 1966. So, what was so scary about that specific year?
Well, let me introduce you to our prime suspect in this demographic mystery, an ancient superstition called Hino I Uma, which translates to the year of the fire horse. So the belief was pretty simple, and also pretty terrifying. If you were a girl born in a fire horse year, you were believed to have a personality so strong, so fiery, so dominant that you would bring ruin and misfortune to your future husband. You would, metaphorically, eat him alive. Now, in a society that really valued harmony, this was seen as the ultimate curse. So how does this astrological math even work? Well, it's a combination of two really powerful forces. You've got the Hino, which is yang fire. Think of a destructive, blazing sun. Then you have Uma, the horse, which is also fire and yang energy. So you smash them together and you get double fire, an overwhelming, uncontrollable force. In a man, this might be seen as charisma, but in a woman, it was considered a total catastrophe. And get this was not some new fad in 1966. This fear came around every 60 years like clockwork. Back in 1906, there was a noticeable dip in births, about 4%. But in 1966, something was different. Modern life didn't weaken the superstition, it amplified it. But every good superstition needs a killer origin story. To really understand the power this curse held over people, we have to go all the way back to the 17th century and meet the girl who basically became its poster child. Yayoi Oshichi, the greengrocer's daughter. Her story is just a flat-out tragedy. During a huge fire in the city, she takes shelter at a temple and falls head over heels for a young man there. When the city's rebuilt, they're separated. She gets so desperate to see him again that she decides to start another fire, thinking it'll bring them back together. Now, the fire she set was tiny, but the crime, arson in a city built of wood and paper, was the absolute worst thing you could do. And this might be the most heartbreaking part of the whole story. At her trial, the magistrate actually felt bad for her and offered her an escape. See, the death penalty didn't apply to anyone under 16. He was basically begging her, "Just tell me you're 15." He was handing her a get-out-of-jail-free card. But tragically, she was honest. She confirmed she was 16, and he had no choice but to sentence her to death. But here is the massive twist. Historians are pretty sure Oshichi wasn't even born in a fire horse year. The dates just don't add up. Her story, this tale of a passion so intense it could literally burn down a city,
was just too perfect an example of the firehorse personality, so storytellers just changed her birthday. They retroactively fitted her into the legend, turning a real tragedy into so-called proof of a prophecy.
Okay, so how did a 300-year-old legend, one that wasn't even based on facts, cause a massive demographic crisis in a modern, technologically advanced country? It's because in 1966, people had the modern tools to act on this ancient fear on a massive scale. For the first time ever, widespread access to contraception and legal abortion meant an entire population could collectively decide to just skip a year. And the data shows that established families, the ones who already had a kid or two, were the best at this, treating 1966 like a planned gap year.
And the media? Oh, they poured gasoline on the fire. Magazines, TV shows, they were all talking about the curse, nonstop. This created a huge social dilemma. You see, maybe you didn't believe the superstition, but you had to worry if other people did. Would your daughter be unable to get married in 20 years because of the year she was born? For many, the safest bet was just to avoid the risk entirely. The fear of the belief became way more powerful than the belief itself.
So, what happened to the girls who were born in 1966? Did the curse actually come true? Well, in a way, yeah, it did. But not because of astrology. It came true because of sociology. Studies on this shadow cohort of women show real, measurable differences in their lives. On average, they have slightly lower levels of education and income. But the most fascinating thing is their divorce rate. It's higher. And that's not because they were cursed from birth. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. A girl who is told her entire life that she's fiery, strong, and difficult might just grow up to be a more independent woman who's less willing to put up with an unhappy marriage. And here is a really chilling thought. In 1990, South Korea had its own version of this, the white horse year. But by then, a new piece of tech was common, the ultrasound. So instead of avoiding all births like in Japan, parents could now specifically target and abort female fetuses. The result wasn't a drop in births, but a horrifyingly skewed sex ratio. It's proof that technology doesn't kill superstition. Sometimes it just makes it more efficient and deadly. And all of this brings us to the future. The next firehorse year is just around the corner in 2026. So, in a Japan that's already facing a major birth rate crisis, could this happen all over again? Well, the experts seem to agree, probably not. At least not on the same scale. The old arranged marriage system, which was the main engine for the fear, is pretty much gone. Some experts do predict a small dip, maybe 3 to 5%, as couples use the superstition as a kind of rational excuse to put off having kids for another year. But even more interesting, there's a real movement to rebrand the firehorse woman, not as a curse, but as a modern feminist icon of strength and independence. And really, that's the whole story right there. The mystery of the firehorse is this incredible reminder that demographics aren't just boring lines on a graph. They are the sum of millions of human choices, hopes, and fears. They're shaped by the stories we tell ourselves, even the ones about the stars.